all of the practices and the tools and the technology, I don't feel they're just reserved for like high-end elite builders and contractors. I do believe you can transition that into other models. And I think that I've done that well, and I want to be a steward for those men and women who are in my role, who either want to remain in my role or just want to find out how to be profitable.
All right, we're at the Contractor Coalition Summit in Omaha. Day one is in the books, we're rolling. You went from attendee in Minneapolis to now a host. This is your second hosting gig. What are you liking so far? What are you vibing with?
I feel like it's official. I mentioned yesterday, I feel like today is the first time that I'm really owning the host role. I'm presenting today. I have my own presentations that I've created. So I think with anything else, just like getting into the mix, getting more comfortable with it. Unlike you, I am more of an introvert than an extrovert. So this is not my ideal situation, but just getting comfortable meeting everyone. Presenting was a lot of fun. I always look forward to that. It gets you out of your comfort zone. And then I feel like it reaffirms what you do, because at the end of the day, a lot of what we do is all made up. Like we're testing theories, we're trying different things. If it works, it works. So just getting on stage and presenting to people and having the confidence to do that, and then reaffirming what you're preaching, that it works for people and that it's tested. For me, helps me out, like with everything that I do in life and business. So it's been a good experience. Like I said, it gets me out of my comfort zone, and it's something different to diversify who I am and what I do.
Do you feel like, so having, like for myself, I've been an attendee, I think 4 times, and we often refer to it as like the first time's drinking out of a fire hose. Yeah. And then each time your lens gets narrower and narrower, and you really pick up more and more, you can really be focused. Do you feel like as a host that is also inverted? Like the first time you sort of present, you're sort of like, man, what do I talk about? And I mean, you obviously do great work on the Modern Craftsman, so you're probably you can adapt quicker. But I guess, do you find that you just get more comfortable and you can go deeper because you are now more comfortable in a teaching role?
Maybe. I think that like my teaching style and what I'm gonna focus on at these events is so much different than what everyone else is. And I try and, especially the past couple of years, I've just really tried to own my own perspective of the industry and the experience that I have, because it's so much different than somebody who builds $40 million worth of homes in a year. So I've just been owning that, and my goal with any content or education or my presentations is to distill it down to what's really powerful. And we have a limited amount of time here, right? If I'm presenting for 2 hours, it's tough to get into the weeds. And I think that's when it becomes like the fire hose effect, where I can't digest all of this information. So for me, I wanna give you enough theory and provide you with tools and questions that you can use to prompt yourself to dive a little bit deeper. So like getting into overarching principles or questions, theories that you can then transition into your own business and start asking yourself those questions, and use the slides and all the information to implement on your own. Because I think to get into the weeds and discuss all of the nuances of my business, like it may or may not apply to you. And I think that I can provide you with enough tools and information that you can then reflect on yourself rather than me just telling you about my business.
I think one of the strengths of the Contractor Coalition, having started with Brad, Morgan, and Nick, is they are so different from each other. Yeah. And now your point of view, there's a lot of small time remodelers that are not large scaled. You're a single operator for most of the time, and you have small remodeling firms, and a lot of the questions that we've been asked are remodelers that want to get into new home building. And so I think having people with such different, varied points of view, especially business operational, is a huge asset. And even someone who's we've had production builders, we've had high-end custom home builders, we've had small remodelers. It doesn't really matter, because the knowledge that you're sharing specifically about your journey, I think regardless, you don't want it to be you don't want it to be intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think And obviously Brad and Nick do a phenomenal job of being approachable, but I think I have had a number of people that have called me and say, hey Mark, I know, like, there's a couple builders here from Minnesota that are very small, it's just a husband and wife, and they're like, am I going to benefit from this? I'm like, absolutely. If I could go back in time and learn what you're presenting now, you just think of how much more your business would have benefited from that knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that there's the intimidation, right? Or like, I don't feel that I fit in, I don't do enough work, my brand, my business isn't legitimate enough. And I think that we've all faced that. Like, I faced that early on in my life from a self-esteem perspective. I faced that in my career. Like, there's even times standing up on stage where it's like, why am I the one teaching this? Like, I feel like there's people better suited to do that. But I have realized, like, digging into my business and where I stand, coalition or not, like, from an industry perspective, it's made up of mostly guys and girls like me, right? Smaller owner-operators, small teams. They don't understand the business of it. They got into it because they enjoy working with the tools or building homes, like the blood, sweat, and tears, and then they realize they're running a business, quote unquote. So for me, my perspective, being smaller, is to say, like, you see what Brad's doing, you see what Nick's doing, you can take that and you can implement it into Morgan's model or my model. Like, I don't feel that all of the practices and the tools and the technology and the strongholds that I don't feel they're just reserved for, like, high-end elite builders and contractors. I do believe you can transition that into other models, and I think that I've done that well, and I want to be a steward for those men and women who are in my role, who either want to remain in my role or just want to find out how to be profitable in this position and realize that, like, you don't have to do $40 million worth of work to make a decent living. You just have to understand how much time and resources you're putting into it. So a lot of principles that I've used, I've taken from CCS, from my relationships with everyone here, with you, with Nick, with Morgan, and I've implemented them into, like, a small scale remodeling company that just only made my business stronger and better. So I think that anyone can attend these. From an educational perspective, massive. But just from the networking perspective and, like, getting around people and realizing that every single person here is doing the same thing, struggling with the same thing, trying to figure this out, trying to work their way through business and life, I think is very reaffirming and can serve as a massive boost to your confidence personally and from a business perspective. And I think that to me might have a higher impact and value than the educational aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's extremely well said. For you personally, when you come to an event, obviously you feel responsibility to make sure that people, that you're approachable, that you can help them. There's all these questions that happen, obviously during the sessions, but obviously outside, all those small conversations to what you were kind of alluding to. What do you get out of it specifically? Because I think one of the not untold, because I think it's a common thing, that as you teach, you're passionate about, I think if I could say one, knowing you now fairly well and hearing you talk, it's like, know your numbers. It could almost be like your business mantra to your peers. Like, by knowing your numbers, you can be profitable. You can actually, just really invest in yourself and understand. If you know your numbers, then, it's like driving a car with no gas tank. Yeah. And, like, how do you know how far to go? And you really like to help people drill that down, because it's been a big focus for you. How do you, when you come to an event like this, what are some things that you want to get out of it as a host?
I think just having an impact on the people who are here and helping them with that, like, discovery of who they are and where they fit within this industry. And what I find challenging, but also a benefit of this industry, is that there's no rules. There's some standards, but, like, you can do it however you want. If you can market it and you can back it. So for me, I think the biggest impact, like, obviously a networking perspective, I think it keeps my finger on the pulse of the industry. I get to meet with people nationwide. So I remain active and present in the industry, where typically if I'm home and I'm working my jobs, I'm in my own little, like, hole. So it keeps me, again, with my finger on the pulse. But I think that a lot of what I get out of this is helping these contractors, these men and women, realize where they fit in this know your numbers type of thing, where it's like, it's not necessarily do you need to know your profit margins, do you need to know what you're charging, as much as like, how are you managing your jobs, how are you aligning your client profile, what type of sales do you need to generate to understand how you make money as a business. And like, most everyone here wants to get to this point where they sell more, but a lot of people just don't realize that, like, as you sell more, your margins go way down. And like, there's either a break-even point for your market or the type of jobs that you do where it might not make sense to sell more and actually focus on either selling less or sustaining where you are and creating efficiencies to drive your numbers up. And I think that so many people are hung up on, I just need to sell more work and then I'll be good. And you're compounding and perpetuating an issue where the issue is like a fundamental flaw within your business. And I think a lot of people just look as generating revenue as the answer to all of their issues. So I think helping people come to that realization where there's options for profitability and growth that don't necessarily mean 2x what I did last year.
I heard a funny quote while we were sitting there. Someone said, it was if a builder won the lottery, they said, what would you do with it? He goes, well, I'll keep building homes till I run out of money.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what you're speaking to, is like not only knowing your numbers, but like, we hear a lot about identifying your ideal client.
Yeah.
And your ideal client is different than my ideal
Correct.
client, and Nick's and Brad's. And I think the more we know ourselves, not only individually as business owners, as whatever our personal aspirations are as well, but also like, what is our business brand? What is that? What do we want it to be? And what do we want it to sell for us when we're not actively selling it?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty powerful. I think the people that we aspire to be around and like, it's these powerful brands that sort of help. I feel like when people come to the Contractor Coalition, when you talk to them, what are some reasons that you're hearing that what drew them to the Contractor Coalition?
I think a lot of people just like want the network. They want to peek into people's numbers, into their books, into just the knowledge that they have. I think a lot of it's curiosity, and I'm a firm believer that most people in our industry are struggling in some way, shape, or form, and they want a fix, and they think that this might be like the catalyst or the impetus or the accountability that they need to spark that fix. And I think in many ways it can be. I think that it's going to tie you into a network and a very large amount of information that can really like right your ship and get you going in the right direction. So I think that most people who come here, whether they admit it or not, are probably looking to solve some fundamental issues that they have within the industry and within their business, and looking for some answers to that.
Would you say, we have 2 more days, what is something that you're very much looking forward to either speaking about, or I guess what really excites you about the group that we have right now? As we're looking at day 1, we still have a couple days left.
Yeah.
What kind of excites you?
Other than the pool, the perspective that I can bring. So like, I'm not going to get up there and I'm not going to pitch my model to everyone. I understand that a lot of people are here because they want to grow. They're remodelers, they want to be builders. But having isolated conversations with people and them discussing their challenges with me, and like very quickly realizing that their model's flawed. And it's not that it's flawed for every market. It's not that it's flawed for Brad or for me or for Minnesota or California or for $1 million versus sales versus 10. It's flawed for their unique situation. So they're taking information that was provided for them and they're looking to integrate that into their business and implement it without accounting for what their unique set of circumstances are. And I have really great conversations offline with people where it's like, yeah, you're getting these numbers and these percentages based on a conversation that somebody had who's in a different market, that has a different team, that's doing different type of jobs. and the framework's there, the structure's there, but those numbers won't work for you, right? Like it's everything is different with your model, and having the conversations to help these people realize that's what's going on, and like they have the framework right. They're not doing anything wrong. You just have to cater this more specific to you, is like this massive awakening for them where they're like, holy crap, like we don't have to sell $40 million worth of work to be successful and to make money. There's opportunities for doing that and ways to do that if you understand all aspects of your business and your market and everything else. So that's really been very rewarding for me, and I'm not getting up on stage and selling that because, you know, everyone here has a different program, a different agenda, but having those conversations with people offline where they're now getting to experience some information from me that's so much different from the other hosts, I think is bringing a ton of value and has been super rewarding for me.
I appreciate your perspective.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.
If you're interested in attending the Contractor Coalition in the future, please head to contractorcoalitionsummit.com or follow us on Instagram to find out more.